Stop asking, "Who am I?" Buddha's real question is, "What am I doing?" We practice to overcome our ignorance. What kind of ignorance is it? The way you normally hear the Buddhist teachings explained, our ignorance is the kind of ignorance of someone coming out of amnesia whose questions are, "Who am I? Where am I?" The answers that are usually given to those questions are these. Who are you? You're a bundle of 5 aggregates. Where are you? You're in samsara. But if you look more carefully at how the Buddha taught, those aren't the questions, and so those aren't the answers. For example, in the Buddha's analysis of the 5 aggregates, they're not what you are. He said that they're activities, the activities out of which you create your sense of self, but that you should see them as not me, not myself, not what I am. And samsara is not a place. It's something you do. It's a wandering on. So the real questions aren't who am I or where am I? The real question is, what am I doing? That's a different kind of ignorance. That's the ignorance of someone who's been doing something habitually and not really paying much attention, and suddenly realizing that what he's doing is causing problems. So as we meditate, that's what we're looking at. What are you doing? What have you been doing that's been causing suffering? Can you see the connection? Can you actually see the action itself? A lot of these actions are subconscious. To see them, you have to get the mind really quiet and have it focused in the right places, and ask the right questions. Questioning your unconscious actions. When we think about subconscious acts, we usually think about the subconscious or the unconscious, or as things in my subconscious, as if it were a room in the mind, like the basement, whereas we're up here above, in the first or second story. To see the subconscious, we think we have to penetrate the barrier of the floor beneath us. But the unconscious and subconscious are not spaces in the mind. They're activities that the mind does without being fully conscious of them, and there are a lot of those. If there are walls in the mind that prevent us from seeing them, we've put those walls up right before our eyes. What's subconscious is not located in any particular hidden place. It's right here. It's simply that these things happen very quickly, they happen very subtly, and we've been doing them for so long that we don't even notice them. They're like the hum of a refrigerator. The refrigerator is right here with us, but it's been on all day, to the point where we don't really notice the hum. One of the reasons we look for inconstancy is to see the moments when the refrigerator turns off. Then you detect. There was something there that you didn't notice because it seems so constant. This happens on the level of the body. It happens on the level of the mind. The Buddha talks about bodily fabrication, which is a physical process, although the mind is involved in doing bodily fabrication through its intentions. He also talks about verbal and mental fabrications, which are more purely aspects of the mind. Bodily fabrication is the way you shape the way you breathe. We're doing this all the time. As the breath comes in, there's going to be something monitoring it that says, "Okay, that's enough. Now it's time for it to go out." If you look carefully enough at the mind, you'll notice that there are some perceptions of what level of breathing is enough. Some of this is on the purely chemical level, as when there's too much carbon dioxide in the blood, and the brain sends a signal to breathe in. Some of it, though, has more to do with how it feels. What kind of breathing feels satisfying right now? But because our attention is diverted elsewhere, we don't really notice what's going on. We don't notice the extent to which we're shaping this. This is one of the reasons why the Buddha has you focus on this as bodily fabrication. He tells you to be aware of the whole body as you breathe in, breathe out. As you do that, you begin to notice that there's more going on than just the air coming in and out of the lungs. There's a movement of energy. Certain muscles are expanded, stretched, others are contracted. They have a rhythm. But to what extent is that rhythm caused by things going on in the mind that you're not fully aware of? The best way to see that is to consciously change the way you think about the breath, to change the way you breathe, to go against what's subconscious. That's how you dig up some subconscious assumptions. There's a resistance. What's going on? What's resisting? If you find that you're having trouble adjusting the breath because your perception is off, well, change your perceptions. This is where mental fabrication comes in and has an influence on bodily fabrication. When you breathe in, where do you think the breath is coming in? How does your mind picture the breathing process? Change the picture. If you're not sure what the picture is, use one of Ajahn Lee's pictures, such as the breath coming in at the base of the skull and going down the spine, down through the legs, coming in through the middle of the chest and going down through the abdomen. Or you can try other images as well. The breath coming in and out the eyes and going deep into the brain, or coming in through the top of the head and going down into the brain. Change the picture, change the image, and see what that does to the breathing process. The same with verbal fabrication. You're sitting here telling yourself, stay with the breath. There are other parts of the mind that'll say, no, go someplace else. I've got something else I want to think about. You don't see those other voices clearly until you've made up your mind that you're going to stay with the breath. Normally, we just drift from one thought to another to another. It's like boats out on the ocean. One boat comes near your boat, and you jump onto that boat. And then that boat gets near to another boat, and you jump on that third boat. Everything is just drifting around. It's all so smooth and seamless that it seems like a very natural process. But then you find yourself in the middle of the ocean. If you ask yourself, where have I been? How did I get here? It'd be hard to trace things back. But if you've got something really solid to hold on to, you can be more conscious of your motions as they bump into your initial intention. Make up your mind that you're going to stay right here with the breath. That gives you a point of comparison. When the mind goes drifting off, you realize that it has drifted. Some people complain that when they meditate, they begin to see what a mess their minds are. Well, the mind has always been a mess. It's not suddenly a mess because you're meditating. Ajahn Fuang's example is of a house that you normally don't clean. One layer of dust settles on the floor today, and then a new layer tomorrow, and a new layer the next day, and you don't see the layers of dust because they're just being added to the dust already there. But if you start cleaning the house, wiping down the floor every day, you notice every little speck of dust as it settles. It's the same when you use the breath to clean things out. Every time a new thought comes in that's not related to the breath, you're going to notice it. You may not notice it at first, you just kind of slip into it the way you normally have been. But as you get better and better at noticing the mind and noticing the warning signals that the mind is about to leave the breath, those warning signals tell you a lot about what's going on in the mind. It's as if a discussion took place maybe 5 minutes ago and it was decided, yes, we're going to leave the breath when we get our first chance. And as soon as there's the slightest little bit of lapse in your mindfulness, you're gone. It's a fait accompli. But once you get sensitive to those little decisions, you can say no. You can change them in time. So look for that. The next time you notice that the mind has wandered off and you bring it back, make up your mind that you're going to look for the warning signals. You don't tell yourself, okay, I'm going to stay with the breath. I'm never going to leave it this time. You're setting yourself up for a fall. There's a lie that's going on in the mind someplace. A wall was put up, and something's sneaking behind the wall. You've got to learn how to pull those walls down. And one of the ways of doing that is to ask, I want to see the warning signals. As soon as the breath gets a little bit wobbly, or your focus on the breath gets a little bit wobbly, you have to be extra careful. And you begin to notice that certain decisions are being made, decisions that you weren't aware of before. It's in this way that we bring things to the conscious level by laying down a few rules. We say, we're going to stay right here with the breath, and then watch the mind as it disobeys the rules, to see what kind of reasons it gives. At first, it doesn't give any reasons. It just does it right in your face. It suddenly switches off in another direction. But if you can get more and more alert to the little things going on in the mind, the quieter you can get the mind, then the more clearly you can see these little decisions, both with the verbal fabrication and with mental fabrication. The feelings that come up, the little perceptions that come up, are like the subliminal messages on TV that come very quickly and then disappear. They plant a seed. If you're alert to them, you can wipe out the seed. It doesn't take much. It's harder, though, once the seed has sprouted and turned into a big plant. Then you have to uproot it because it's established itself. But at the moment when it's still just a seed, it's just a little tiny decision that was made in the mind. And you can undo the decision right there if you catch it in time. Otherwise, it starts burrowing around, finding other friends inside the mind, so it has its team, its gang. It's going to gang up on you. So you begin to see that the subconscious is not a place in the mind. It's not a subterranean dungeon. It's simply the mind's ability to do something very quickly and then to pretend that it has forgotten. But if your mindfulness is more continuous, your alertness is sharper, and you're more and more determined to stay here, then the more clearly you can see those moments in the mind. You see the tricks that the mind plays on itself, the way it hides things from itself, the way it's already shaping things. In dependent co-arising, the factors of fabrication come prior to sensory contact. In other words, when they're unskillful, when they're done through ignorance, they've got you primed to suffer no matter what comes to your senses, no matter what you see or hear or smell or taste or touch or think about. Once these little decisions are in place, they've got you primed to suffer. Now, if you can bring awareness and appropriate attention to this process, you can prime the mind in another direction. Appropriate attention is a matter of asking the right questions. Remember, the questions are not, "Who am I?" or "Where am I?" The question is, "What am I doing?" That's how you prime the mind in another direction. Think about the Buddha on his way to awakening. The questions were never, "Who am I?" or "Where am I?" The question was, "What am I doing?" He tried different methods of meditation. He tried different austerities, and he wasn't getting the results he wanted. So he turned around and said, "What am I doing? What can I change?" To see the little things that the mind was doing, he had to make the mind very, very quiet, in an all-around way. This is why the meditation involves getting focused on the breath and then being aware of the whole body, because different thoughts get associated with movements of energy in different parts of the body. They leave markers as we hold on to a thought for a bit. If you've got your awareness all around, and you've got the breath energy smoothed out, then there are fewer and fewer places to leave markers, fewer and fewer hiding places for the unskillful thoughts, urges, feelings, and actions with which you shape your experience. When you bring the light of awareness to these things, you can turn fabrication from a cause of suffering into part of the path. So always remember that the questions are not, "Who am I?" or "Where am I?" The question is, "What am I doing?" And try to be really vigilant in being very precise in your answers. Bring things that the mind has been hiding from itself from behind the walls. It's put up and into plain sight. This is what changes fabrication from a problem into the solution to the problem. So look carefully. No one else can do the looking for you, but if you look in the right places and ask the right questions, you're bound to see. Guardian Meditations. If you've ever opened a book to look at dependent co-arising, your first impulse was probably to close the book because the topic is so complex. But actually, there are some good basic lessons you can learn, even from your first impressions. The primary factor is ignorance. That's what starts suffering in motion. When you replace the ignorance with knowledge, that cuts the chain of causes and conditions leading to suffering. So it's good to know precisely what kind of knowledge is called for here: knowledge of the Four Noble Truths. This is why right view is always given as the first factor in the Noble Eightfold Path. It starts with conviction in your actions, that your actions are real, that they really do have results, and that the quality of the results is determined by the quality of the mental state engendering the action. It's within this context that the Four Noble Truths make sense. After all, suffering is a result of a particular mental action or a series of mental actions, craving and ignorance being primary. If mental actions didn't have an impact on your life, the Four Noble Truths would be meaningless. This, of course, directs us to where we have to practice. We've got to train the mind. Notice that each of the Four Noble Truths entails a particular duty, each of which is a skill to be mastered. You're trying to comprehend suffering so that you can let go of its cause. You develop the path so that you can realize the end of suffering. Those are the duties you have to master as skills. This is why in the Buddha's teaching, there's no big controversy over sudden versus gradual awakening. The kind of knowledge we're developing here, like any skill, is incremental. The more you work on it, the more sensitive you get. Ultimately, you reach a point where you really understand. The image in the texts is of the continental shelf off of India. It's a gradual slope, and then there's a sudden drop-off. It's not all or nothing. The build-up is important because the build-up is what makes you more sensitive. Only when you're really sensitive can you have those aha moments that really go deep into the mind, open things up, change your perspective on everything. This is why the Eightfold Path is not only composed of right view, but also other factors that help to increase your ability to know, to learn, to be aware of the mind, and to help you let go of the factors that obscure the mind. That's why one of the Buddha's terms for the path is developing and letting go. You're developing clarity of mind. You're letting go of the things that obscure and defile the mind. So that's the big important factor in the chain of causes and conditions. Whether you're operating out of the right view of the Four Noble Truths or the wrong view of ignorance. The other point that will immediately strike you if you look at dependent co-arising is how many of the factors come prior to sensory contact. Things don't just begin with sensory contact. You bring a whole load of preconditions to any experience, and working on those preconditions is what's going to make all the difference. For instance, building right off of ignorance, there are what they call fabrications. The way you breathe, if it's done in ignorance, can contribute to suffering. That's physical fabrication. Verbal fabrication consists of the way you direct your thoughts to things and then comment on them. If this is done in ignorance, it's going to lead to suffering. Mental fabrication consists of perceptions and feelings. If you fabricate these things out of ignorance, they're going to lead to suffering as well. This is why a large part of the practice is focused on the issue of perception, the way you label things, how they fit into the larger picture of your thoughts. And this is why the Buddha didn't just sit people down and say, okay, just be in the present moment and don't think about anything else. He would often start his instructions by leading up to an understanding of why we're in the present moment, exactly what we're trying to look for in the present moment, what we're going to do about it when we see it. This is why there are so many analogies and images in the canon. They give you a framework for understanding what you're doing. And again, many of the images and analogies have to do with skills. Being a skillful meditator is like being a skillful cook, carpenter, or archer. There's a skillful way to perceive. There's even a skillful way to feel. Feeling comes not only from raw data, streaming in from the outside, but also from an element of fabrication and mental impulse. A physical impulse comes up your nerves, and your mind processes it before you're really conscious of it. What we're trying to do as we meditate is to learn how to bring some of these unconscious processes into the light of day. And a central element in these processes is the way you perceive things. you can consciously train yourself to perceive things in more useful, more skillful ways. There's a series of meditations called guardian meditations, which are very helpful in using skillful perceptions to get the mind in the right mood, in the right attitude, with the right understanding as you come into the present moment. You'll often find, as you're sitting here meditating on the breath, that the problem is not with the breath. It's with the mental baggage you're carrying with you. So you want to open up the bags and throw out all the unnecessary weight. There's an image they have in Thailand of the old woman who carries around a huge bundle of straw on her back. She's always bent over because she's carrying so much straw. People ask her why she doesn't put it down, and she says, "Well, someday this straw is going to come in handy, so I'm carrying it for the day I'll need it." So she carries it wherever she goes. Of course, there are many other things she could be carrying, but she can't because the straw is such a huge bundle. And of course, it's pretty useless. So you want to look into your baggage to see how much straw you're carrying around, so that you can lighten your load. Then you can replace it with better things, things that really will be useful. And the guardian meditations are a good way of sorting things out in your baggage. The first guardian meditation is recollection of the Buddha, keeping in mind his awakening, reflecting on it as a central event in the history of the world. The fact of his awakening shows that through human effort, true happiness can be found. It's an important point to keep in mind because so much of our modern culture tries to say, hey, you can't have an ultimate and deathless happiness, but you can have the happiness that comes from our egg beater with an MP3 player built right into the handle, or whatever. In other words, they keep you focused on what you can get out of buying their stuff, which is all pretty miserable. How many articles in The Onion are based on this? Woman discovers that buying that new mop did not deliver the fulfillment that she hoped it would bring to her life. In other words, our culture keeps us aiming pretty low. Go for the quick fix. Go for something that doesn't require any effort or skill on your part, just money. They dress it up, make it sound like you'll be really happy if you buy their stuff. So it's important to keep in mind that there was someone in the past who found true happiness, and it was through his own efforts. And as he said, it wasn't because he was a special god or anything. It was simply through developing qualities of mind that we can all develop: man, woman, child, lay, or ordained, ardency, resolution, heedfulness. We all have these qualities to some extent. It's simply a matter of developing them. The same with virtue, concentration, discernment. These are things we all have to some extent. It's simply a matter of learning how to make them all around. So when you're tempted to go for the quick but short happiness, remind yourself. The Buddha says that true happiness is possible and that it can be gained through human effort. Do you want to live your life without exploring that possibility? Or do you just want to write it off? In this way, keeping the Buddha's awakening in mind is an important perception, an important perspective to bring to all of your experiences. And there are many other things that you can gain by thinking about the Buddha's life, the sort of person he was, his last message to be heedful. He was the sort of person who had already found true happiness. He didn't need to gain anything from anyone else, but he went out and he taught for 45 years, walking around northern India. Wherever there was someone who was ready to be taught, ready to benefit from his teachings, he would walk there. That's the kind of person who taught this Dhamma, not someone who was running a retreat center and needed to bring in cash, and who was willing to say anything to attract clientele, but someone acting totally out of pure motives, pure compassion. So that's the kind of practice we're practicing as we follow his path. And it's ennobling for us to practice in that lineage. So, these are good perceptions to hold in mind, especially when you're getting discouraged or tempted to give up on the practice, or if you think, well, maybe I'm not up to this. Remember that the essential qualities for awakening are qualities that everybody can develop, but we have to develop them ourselves. We can't depend on anyone outside to come and do it for us. That's the other part of the message of the Buddha's life, the part that keeps you on your toes. The second guardian meditation is goodwill. You want to bring an attitude of goodwill to everybody around you. When the Buddha talked about goodwill in the Brahma Viharas, it wasn't ordinary everyday goodwill, it was goodwill all around, without limit. That's not easy. It doesn't come naturally to us. We tend to have goodwill for certain people and not so much for other people. As a result, our actions very easily turn unskillful. It's very easy to do harm to the people we don't care about or who aren't on our list of people who deserve to be happy. And it's also easy to drop people from the list when the mood strikes us, to treat even the people we love in unskillful ways. So to protect yourself from that kind of unskillful action, you've got to learn how to make your goodwill all around, 24/7. That doesn't mean creating a cloud machine that sends out billowing clouds in all directions to hide your lack of goodwill. When you start spreading thoughts of goodwill, first you spread it to people who are easy, the people you already love and like, and then to people who are harder. Even though you don't like them, you can ask yourself, why would I not want this person to be happy? After all, when people aren't happy, they can do cruel and miserable things. The world would be a better place if everyone could find true happiness inside, regardless of whether you like them or not, or whether they've been good or not, or whether they're on your list of the deserving. And besides, who made you the National Bureau of Standards? Why should your likes and dislikes rule the world? In this way, goodwill meditation is meant to be a challenge for you to really think through why you'd want to limit your goodwill and to remind yourself of why it's good to have goodwill for everyone. You can't act on harmful intentions if your goodwill is all around. This is why it's called a guardian meditation. The third guardian meditation is of the foulness of the body. A lot of people don't like this one. If we took a poll of meditators here in the West, we'd probably find this at the bottom of the list of popular meditation topics, yet it's very useful. Some people say, hey, I've already got a negative body image. Why do you want me to make it even more negative? Well, there's healthy negative body image, as well as an unhealthy one. Unhealthy is when you see that your body is ugly, but other people have beautiful bodies. Healthy is when you see that we all have the same garbage inside ourselves. Nobody's liver would win the Miss Universe contest. This contemplation is helpful because it's a guardian. It protects you from inappropriate lust. There are so many people out there you could feel lust for, but if you acted on it, you'd create a lot of trouble. Even if you're not practicing celibacy, you need a way to guard yourself against that kind of vagrant lust. So the next time you see an attractive person, instead of weaving all sorts of narratives from the ideas and associations you've developed around beauty, it's good to teach yourself other narratives, other associations. Right under the skin, what have you got? You've got all these blood vessels and nerves and and as you go deeper, it gets more And what do you gain out of lusting for that? Why would you want it? This sort of contemplation really goes against the grain, which is one of the reasons why it's useful to reflect on over and over and over again. Ajahn Mahabhuwa keeps making the point, don't count the number of times you've reflected on the foulness of the body. Just keep doing it until it's done its job. After all, our lusting after the human body is what led us to be born. This is what keeps us wanting to come back, and it makes us do really stupid things. So this contemplation is a useful tool to have in your arsenal. It's a useful new set of perceptions to develop. Our perceptions of beauty are dangerous, so it's good to learn how to see that beautiful bodies are not really beautiful. All you have to do is look inside a little bit, and you see all kinds of stuff that can kill the lust if you really allow yourself to look at the body as a whole and not just at the few parts you tend to focus on as being attractive. The fourth guardian meditation is recollection of death. For most people, this is pretty disturbing and depressing, but it's meant to be used in a way that's inspiring, that helps us to follow the path beyond death to the deathless. Remind yourself that we've got this practice that allows us to prepare for death and transcend it. Have you fully developed it? Are you really prepared? And the answer is almost always no. Okay then, you've got work to do. This is a good antidote for laziness. There's a great sutta where the Buddha talks about 8 reasons for laziness and 8 reasons for being diligent. And for both lists, the external conditions are the same. You can be lazy because you're feeling sick. You can be lazy because you're about to go on a trip. You can be lazy because you've just gotten back from a trip. You can be lazy because you just recovered from an illness. You can be lazy because you haven't eaten enough. You can be lazy because you've eaten too much. But you can also use those circumstances to remind yourself, I don't have much time. When you just recover from an illness, instead of saying, I'm still weak, I'm not quite well yet, let me rest, you remind yourself. I could get sick again. I could have a relapse. But at least now I've some strength. Let me give this strength to the practice. If you haven't eaten enough, remind yourself, the body is light. I'm not spending all that time and energy digesting my food, so I've got more energy now for the practice. You've got the right conditions for sitting very quietly, very still. So your attitude is what's going to make the difference between whether the circumstances you've got right now are reasons for laziness or reasons for diligence. When you remind yourself that you don't know how much time you've got, it should stir you to action, so that when the time comes, when you really do have to go, you're ready, prepared. You've got the concentration, you've got the power of discernment, you've got the strength of mind to deal with whatever comes your way. If you sit around saying, please may I not die, please may I not die, someday you'll still have to die no matter how much you plead. A wiser attitude would be, please may I be ready when the time comes. May I have the strength to deal with any difficulty that might come my way. Then you realize that this is something you have in your power, to work on those strengths. After all, we've got the example of how the Buddha died. This is why these two recollections, recollection of the Buddha and recollection of death, go well together. The Buddha shows you how you can prepare. You look at the way he died. One last trip through all the jhanas. He died with no suffering at all and gained total release. It's possible for a human being to do this. If you think that comparing yourself to the Buddha is too much of a stretch, think about the members of the Sangha. You can read the verses of the elder monks and the elder nuns. Some of them were pretty miserable, total losers in meditation at first, and yet they were able to pull themselves together. They could do it. You can do it. So these 4 contemplations are guardian meditations to bring wisdom into your perception of things, the labels and ideas you bring to your experience. The more you develop them, then the better the set of associations, the better the set of narratives you bring to, say, just the fact you're breathing, or the fact you're seeing, hearing, tasting, or touching things in the present moment. In other words, what you bring into the present moment is going to make all the difference. This is why we train the mind. This is why we practice, so that when the time comes to perform, you can perform well, in a way that doesn't lead to suffering. You bring knowledge into the equation so that no matter which factor of dependent co-arising you're looking at, whether it's feelings, contact, craving, clinging, or whatever, you can untangle the conditions for suffering and replace them with conditions that lead to the end of suffering. So learn how to develop these topics along with the breath. They help put the whole practice into the right narrative, into the right perspective, and they protect you so that you aren't constantly causing suffering for yourself and the people around you. That's the best protection there is. Artillery all around. The mind is such an old hand at fabrication that it doesn't really notice all the fabrication it's doing all the time. You sit here watching the breath and you think it's just awareness with the breath, pure and simple. But the type of awareness you bring is already fabricated, and the breath itself is already fabricated. The Buddha calls the breath bodily fabrication, and, from the side of the mind, you're bringing in verbal fabrication and mental fabrication. There are the places where you direct your thinking and your evaluation of what's actually going on. That's the verbal fabrication. Then there are the feelings and perceptions you also bring. That's mental fabrication. We're doing this all the time. Every experience we have is taken from some raw materials from the past, which we then fabricate into a present experience. It's like baking a cake. You don't just have a ready-made cake appear out of nowhere. You've got the eggs, the flour, and all the other ingredients. You put them together, and then you have a cake. We approach our experiences as if they were ready-made cakes, but they're not. We're actually back there in the kitchen, cooking up these things. So an important part of our practice is opening the door into the kitchen so that we can watch what's happening and understand how we are fabricating things. To see that, you've got to get the mind very still. And it turns out that the only way you can get it very still is to fabricate it to be very still. So we use fabrications in order to understand fabrications. Not only that, in the process of fabricating a state of stillness, you're going to learn an awful lot about the process of fabrication as you master it. So it's important that you realize that concentration and all the other factors of the path, all the other right factors, are things that we put together. We fabricate them, we develop them, as they say in the suttas. Because we have different kinds of defilements, we're going to have to fabricate the path in lots of different ways. You look at the Buddha's teachings. He didn't teach just one meditation method. There's no one-size-fits-all technique. He did spend more time describing breath meditation than any other method, and it works as the foundation for many other types of meditation. It, as the Buddha said, is the safest and most pleasant of all the meditation methods. But simply working with the breath is not going to be enough. On the one hand, it does give you experience in dealing directly with the bodily, verbal, and mental fabrication, but all your different strategies for fabricating your experience come from lots of different directions, so you're going to need different tools, different techniques to deal with all the different problems. One of the functions of discernment is learning how to read a situation and figure out which technique you need. It's like going into the kitchen and tasting some dish you've got on the stove and realizing that something is wrong. If you have some experience, you can figure out maybe it's because it's too salty, or maybe because the heat is too low, or the heat is too high. You know what to do to fix it. That's your discernment as a cook. But if all you know is one cooking technique and you try applying that to everything, you're going to end up with some very strange dishes. If all you can do is fry, you end up not only with fried eggs, but also fried cakes, fried salad, fried strawberries. So you've got to realize that there are other ways of fixing food. And the same with your mind. There are other ways of dealing with issues in the mind. In the commentaries, they count 40 different meditation topics, and there are a lot of others that don't even make it onto the list. So it's good to know some basic ones, and to realize that you can use different techniques to deal with different issues as they come up. You exercise your sensitivity in reading the situation and your ingenuity in learning how to apply different methods. These are important means for developing discernment. Otherwise, you just do one method, not even thinking, not taking any responsibility, and that's not going to develop discernment at all. Your defilements have their different tricks and techniques, and they're going to run all over you because they're going to know. They can see you coming from a mile away. You've got your one technique, and they know how to hide, how to get around it. It's like what happened in Singapore during World War II. The The British figured that the Japanese were going to come from the ocean, so they put their cannons in cement, pointed out toward the ocean. All their artillery was pointed at the ocean and was fixed that way. But then the Japanese came down the Malay Peninsula, and all the artillery was useless. It was pointed in the wrong direction. So you need to develop an all-around view of your mind and have a good range of techniques at your disposal. As the Buddha said, there are essentially two main techniques. One is just watching a particular cause of stress. In that case, you just have to sit here very quietly and watch how that cause of stress arises and how it passes away. And with some of the defilements in the mind, just watching them is enough to make them embarrassed. You see right through them. But there are a lot more for which that doesn't work. This, the Buddha said, is where you have to exert a fabrication. In other words, start with bodily fabrication. Use your breath in different ways. Sometimes irritation is aggravated by breathing in an irritable way, so try to soothe the breath down, smooth it out. As the breath gets more and more comfortable, you find that you're less and less inclined to want to go with that irritation, or whatever the problem was. Then you've got verbal fabrication and mental fabrication. For instance, you may realize that you need to do some more metta practice, goodwill for yourself, goodwill for other people. That's exerting a fabrication. You're dealing with your directed thoughts, evaluations, and perceptions. If you're feeling lazy, it's good to think about death, realizing that death can come at any time. You may feel that we're living in a safe environment here, and it is relatively safe, but it's not absolutely. You go out at night and there are snakes. We've had cougars come through, and of course there's always that earthquake they keep threatening. Lots of things could happen. Then there's your own body. Things outside can be perfectly safe, but suddenly, your body has something go wrong. Something gets lodged in the blood vessels that nourish your heart, and that's it. The question always is, are you ready to go? The answer usually is, no, not yet. In which case, you've got to figure out, okay, which qualities of mind do you have to develop right now? You've got to get to work on your meditation. If you find that you're getting discouraged, you can contemplate the Buddha. You can contemplate the Sangha. Think of their noble example. If the Buddha seems a little bit outside of your range, then remember the Sangha. All kinds of people, all kinds of backgrounds, educated, uneducated, rich, poor, everything in between, men, women, children. A lot of them had real problems, yet they were able to overcome them. As the Buddha said, it's good to think about the fact that if they can do it, so can I. They're human beings. I'm a human being. They were able to develop nobility of character. I can develop that too. I don't have to spend my whole life just giving in to my impulses, giving in to my hunger and thirst, giving in to my laziness. Part of being a human being is developing some dignity. So think about whatever it is about the Buddha and the Sangha that inspires you to develop some dignity and also gives you encouragement that this is something a human being can do and that it's a good use of your life. That way, you can energize yourself on the path. You can also contemplate the parts of the body, as in the chant we have of the 32 parts, starting with hair of the head, hair of the body, and all the way down the list. This is good for several things. One, of course, is lust. Another is the sense of attachment we get to the body. You come to realize that no matter how nice it looks from the outside, you look inside and there's not much you'd want to look at. There's just a little film of skin over the top that makes it presentable. As the Buddha once said, whoever would think, based on a body like this, that one person could exalt himself and disparage others, either in terms of skin color or beauty or whatever. What is that if not blindness? This contemplation is a great leveler. It's also good for times when the mind wants to fall asleep. Sometimes you're getting bored with the breath, or something interesting is coming up in the mind, but part of the mind wants to hide it from you. You start getting sleepy all of a sudden, for no reason at all. The mind is playing tricks on you. I've always found that switching over to contemplation of the body is a good way of dealing with that kind of sleepiness. Sometimes it may be an issue of lust lurking around, trying to put an end to your meditation. So, you're interested in the body? Well, let's look at it and see what it's got. There are other times when the mind is really scattered and isn't willing to settle down with the breath. Okay? If it's got the energy to think, come back and think about the parts of the body, visualize them, try to figure out where are they right now. Where are the different bones in your body right now? Where are the different organs? Even as you're working with the breath, there are lots of different ways of working with the breath. Another cure for sleepiness that I've found is that if focusing on one spot in the body gets you really blurry, make up your mind to focus on one spot for 3 breaths, and then another spot for 3 breaths, and then another spot, and another, and just keep chasing these spots around the body. That could wake you up. Or if the mind is feeling really irritable, you can think of relaxing everything going down to the legs, down to the toes. Think of yourself sitting in the middle of the breath, putting the breath all around you, with relaxation spreading out from the center in every direction. So, lots of ways of playing with the breath, lots of ways of playing with these different perceptions and feelings. And, as the Buddha says, lots of ways of exerting a fabrication to deal with the different defilements that come up. An important part of being a skilled meditator is having a range of tools, a range of skills, and developing the sense to know how to read your situation and how to figure out which of the tools is appropriate for that situation. Otherwise, you've got your artillery there set in the cement, pointing out uselessly to the sea, while the enemy army is swarming all behind you. Learn to develop an all-around vision, an artillery that can swivel around in all 360 degrees, so that no matter where the enemy comes from or what technique or tactic they use, you've got the means to fight them off.